So the board clerk, who is that person?
Dr. Jacqueline Mann.
Okay. So what steps, if any, did you and Jacqueline Mann take to obtain an outside investigator?
I believe we reached out to I believe first there was an attempt to reach out to I think this was the firm. I believe it was someone at Bulow Vetter.
Okay.
But then subsequent to that, attorney Miriam Horowitz was retained to conduct that investigation.
Okay. And when you reached out to Bulow Vetter, when would that have been?
Very shortly after whatever date the board had authorized us to engage an outside investigator.
Okay. And to your knowledge, is Calvin Furman employed by Bulow Vetter now?
I believe he is.
Yes. And do you believe he was employed by Bulow Vetter at that time?
I don't believe so.
Okay. What, if any, reason caused you to not employ Bulow Vetter, but instead employ Miriam Horowitz?
I don't recall what the basis was. I absolutely know that we had reached out. I don't remember the reason.
Was it that there was improper for Calvin Furman's firm to investigate Calvin Furman's complaint?
Objection form.
I don't recall. I don't recall.
Did you communicate with Bulow Vetter, or did somebody else communicate with them?
It was I believe it was a conference call that Dr. Mann and I had.
With who?
I think it was Dan Valite. I think. I'm sorry, Dan Valite.
Okay. And how did you know to contact Bulow Vetter as opposed to the city attorney's office, for example?
I think at the time we had received a communication from the city attorney's office that they, for whatever reason, they were going to be unable to represent us or take on additional work.
Okay. When did that happen?
What specifically? I'm sorry.
Sure. This letter from this communication from the city attorney's office telling you that they would not be able to represent MPS or take on additional work.
Well, I'm going to object to the form misstated prior testimony. Also, assumes facts, not evidence. You can go ahead and answer, I guess.
I don't know the date of that, but it would have been prior to that executive session and the ask for an external investigator.
Okay. And you don't recall when that closed session happened?
It was either October, November, or December of 2022. I'm sorry, I don't remember the date.
Okay. But you're clear that that was after Calvin Furman left the district, correct?
Object the form misstated testimony.
No, I think he was still employed by the district at that time.
Okay. In November of 2020?
November of 2022.
2022, okay. Okay. And is November of 2022, is that prior or after you met with Mr. Furman regarding his complaint against Mr. Posley?
Can you say that again? There's a little bit of a break there. I'm sorry.
Sure, there was talking.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. So my question to you is, your meeting with Bulow Vetter, did that happen before or after you met with Calvin Furman about his complaints?
It was after.
Okay. And it was before or after you had the board meeting about Calvin Furman's complaint?
We spoke with Bulow Vetter after the discussion with the board.
Okay. What was the results of Miriam Horowitz's investigation, to your knowledge?
She produced an investigative report that was then shared with the board.
Okay. Were you present when that was shared with the board?
Yes, I guess I was.
Do you-
Or at least I was present at at a time that it was shared with the board.
Okay, did you ever receive a copy of that document?
I received a hard copy at the time that it was shared with the board, but I don't have, I did not keep a copy.
Okay. What, if anything, did you do with that copy?
Returned it to, I believe, the board clerk at the end of that particular closed session.
Why did you do that?
That's the practice for documents handed out in executive session.
Who told you that that was the practice?
I don't know if anyone specifically said, but that has been the practice.
Okay. Going back to your testimony before about that, you were given directive at a closed session based on a consensus of the board. Based on your position in the Office of Efficiency, about how many times have you been given directive by consensus in a closed session?
I'm going to object to the form. The question is vague.
Join.
I can only recall that one.
Okay. What result, if any, did the board take and result of the Miriam Horowitz investigation, if you know?
Foundation and form.
I believe that Ms. Brunau was demoted into a position of, I believe, Director of Remote Work.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Director of Remote Work, I believe, is the title.
Do you know where Ms. Brunau works at present? What physical location?
I don't know for certain. I don't know for certain.
Have you heard any rumors?
It might.
Well, I'm gonna check to the form. Calls for speculation. I don't know.
What I've heard is one of two things. A facilities and maintenance building. I think the district has a couple, but I'm not sure which one. Or possibly the MPS Foundation building.
Okay, and who have you heard that from?
I'm sorry. I don't recall who I learned that from. I'm sorry.
Okay. What action, if any, did MPS take against Dr. Posley as a result of the Horowitz investigation?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. What was the result, what were the findings of the Horowitz investigation, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, that there was a toxic workplace environment under Chief Brunau.
Okay. And that's it? That was the extent of the findings?
I remember with certainty the toxicity in the workplace.
Okay. Is there anything that you don't remember with certainty?
I'm gonna check the form. If you don't remember, you don't remember.
That's all I recall.
Okay. Well, you used the qualifying word certainty, correct?
Yes.
Why did you use that qualifying word?
I just remember the report being very in depth.
You said the board being very in-depth? Or
The report.
Okay. In depth on what subjects?
In terms of their review and in terms basically of the depth of the investigation into the concern.
Okay. I'm going to hand to you what's marked as our Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
What is this document?
This is a document authored by Calvin Furman regarding his separation from the district.
Okay. I'm going to direct you to the penultimate paragraph. It's on page 5.
Okay.
And how does that start?
I know that people often don't share.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. So we're on the same page there. And it says, I know that people often don't share concerns candidly for fear of backlash. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And this is Calvin Furman, the deputy superintendent, writing this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And he goes on to say, I also fear backlash and attacks on my name for sharing this information from the board. Did I read that right?
With the board. I think you said from. I'm sorry.
Perfect. I appreciate that. So, did you discuss with Mr. Furman his fear of backlash at any time?
I believe so.
Okay. Why, to your knowledge, did Mr. Furman have a fear of backlash and attacks on his name for sharing this information with the board?
I'm going to reject the form of question, foundation, and cause speculation.
Yeah, I think he was just concerned that there'd be an attempt to discredit him, or to. I think it was he had a concern that there'd be an attempt to disparage or discredit him.
Okay, and who did he think would attempt that disparagement?
Object to form, lack foundation, also cause speculation.
I don't know that he ever shared a specific individual. I think it was more just about organizationally.
Okay. Did he ever express any fears to you about concern that Dr. Posley would retaliate against him?
I don't recall if he shared I don't recall that he shared that about Dr. Posley specifically.
Okay. Did you believe him at that time to be concerned about Dr. Posley retaliating against him?
Object to form, cause speculation, lack of foundation.
I think he did share some concern that he didn't know what his relationship would look like with Dr. Posey after this. I think he did share that.
Okay. Your experience at MPS, have you had the opportunity to observe Dr. Posley's leadership style?
I would say yes.
Okay, based on that knowledge, what is your understanding of Dr. Posley's leadership style?
Object to form of question vague.
I know he describes himself as a good soldier.
Okay. Did he describe himself to you as a good soldier? Scratch that question. How do you know he describes himself as a good soldier?
I either remember hearing someone else refer to that, or maybe reading it in print somewhere, or having heard other people say it and then share it with me.
Great. What does the term good soldier mean to you?
Sort of let me know what you need me to do, and I'll get it done.
Okay. And who is he believe that he's taking orders from, to your knowledge?
Object to
Objection.
form, cause speculation.
Join on that one.
The
Great.
board.
Great. Okay. And do you believe that the superintendent Posley is following the board's instructions as a soldier follows his superior's instructions?
Object to form, foundation, cause speculation.
Join.
I don't have any reason to believe that Dr. Posley is not following whatever the explicit direction of the board is.
Because you've never seen him do that, or something else?
I've never seen him do it.
Okay. And has anybody ever reported that concern to you?
No, not as a concern.
Okay. And by concern, I also mean complaint.
Yeah, not a complaint framed in that way.
Okay. So I'm going to read from the second paragraph of this letter.
On page 1.
Page 1.
Thank you.
And it's underlined in bold why I'm leaving.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Furman says, I am leaving my position because of the poor leadership and flawed philosophical approach of the superintendent that is allowing dysfunction and a culture of fear and toxicity to thrive. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Based on your experience as the head of OAE, is that statement accurate?
Well, I'm going to object to cause of speculation. Is the whole statement, or are you calling part of it? Because I don't know how this witness can testify as to the reason, the accuracy of Mr. Furman's statement concerning the reason why he's leaving.
Do you know the answer, sir?
I would like to separate the portion where he explains why he's leaving,
Okay.
and either address that component separately or the part about allowing dysfunction or culture and fear and toxicity to thrive.
Great. If you want to proceed on that basis, let's do that.
I believe in the first part that is accurate, that he left his position because that was that is his true opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking for my opinion as to whether or not the superintendent has allowed dysfunction and culture, fear, and toxicity to thrive?
Correct.
I agree that he's allowed it to exist. I don't know thrive, but it allowed it to exist.
Okay. And you also understand that the superintendent is ultimately in charge of the management of the district. Is that correct?
Within the administration's purview, yes.
Okay. That is to say that the board can put limitations on the powers of the superintendent.
Yes.
Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to creating a culture of fear and toxicity, do you believe that the board has placed any constraints on Dr. Posley?
The form foundation.
I don't know.
Okay, do you recall any?
I don't recall any.
Okay. Then it says the superintendent has allowed the organization to fall into a state of confusion and chaos. Is that a correct reading?
That is a correct reading.
Okay. Based on your understanding of the superintendent as your position as the head of OAE, is that a true statement?
I would characterize it as, I would not use confusion and chaos. I would describe it as inefficient, unorganized.
Okay. And your job is to improve efficiency, correct?
That is one of the responsibilities.
Okay. Do you believe that the superintendent has prevented you from making MPS more efficient?
I don't believe he's done it intentionally.
Okay. Has he done it unintentionally?
I would argue in so much as that any long-term strategic vision in planning has been absent.
Okay. So you believe that Dr. Posley's lack of planning has not been intentional?
I don't believe it's been intentional.
Okay, why do you have that belief?
I think his leadership style is one in which it is sort of reacts to whatever happens to be sort of a hot button item at the moment, and that does impede the ability to, I think, plan and foresee into a longer term.
Okay. Would you characterize that as a reactionary leadership style?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Then going on, it says, there does not appear to be any particular concerns for the strategic lack of direction and the lack of effort to change. Did I read that right? No, I'm sorry. I surely did not.
No.
Let me read that again.
I'm so sorry. We're still in the second paragraph.
We're still in the second paragraph,
Thank you.
and I confused 2 lines, so I hope you're less confused than me. So let me start over. There does not appear to be any particular concern for the strategic direction of the district or for the success of the staff as a whole. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Based on your experience, is that a true statement?
I would generally agree with that statement.
Why?
Based on personal experience and observation.
Okay. Moving on, it says most staff are frustrated with the lack of direction and the lack of effort to change. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, based on your experience, is that a true statement?
Objective foundation, also called speculation.
I'm going to infer when he says most staff that Mr. Furman is referring generally to staff that is housed or employed within the central service building. I don't know if he's, I just don't know if he's referring to the entire district. I'm inferring that he's referring to district staff in central service building, in which case I would say that's an accurate statement.
Okay. So if we say that most staff, we could say most central services staff are frustrated with the lack of direction and lack of effort to change. Is that a more accurate statement?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So to move on to the next paragraph, that's the one that says philosophy of distrust.
Next paragraph, I'm there, yes.
Okay. I did go to philosophy college, so it's a little embarrassing. I hope you'll agree. The superintendent's philosophical approach is one of general distrust of others. Is that an accurate statement based on your understanding?
I would characterize it as a very insular trust of select individuals. I don't know that is necessarily a distrust of others, but it is absolutely a more visible trust and reliance upon a more insular circle of individuals.
Okay. Does the superintendent trust you?
Objective form foundation. Also called speculation.
I think so.
Okay. Why?
Same objection.
Same, check, yeah.
I don't think I've ever given him cause not to trust me.
Okay. Do you believe that he is aware of your understandings of his management style?
Objection, form, speculation.
Join.
Only in so much as that it would intersect with any particular communication or disagreement or perspective that I've shared with the board that is different than his.
Okay. And have you ever shared a finding with the board that was different than Dr. Posley's, to your knowledge?
Certainly in the Dr. Keither manner.
Okay, we'll get to that then in a second, if you will. I just want to move on here, and again in this philosophy of distrust paragraph.
Okay.
And it says, there is generally no empowerment of employees to act in alignment with district goals. Do you see that? It's the second sentence.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I do see that. There's.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you believe that to be an accurate statement?
I do agree with that.
Okay, and what does district goals mean to you there?
I inferring from this that he's speaking to just the general mission and vision of the organization.
Okay. And not necessarily laws, well, I'll put it this way, or compliance with state laws. Is that a district goal to your knowledge?
Yeah.
I'm going to objective form.
Legal compliance should be a district goal.
Is it a district goal to your knowledge?
Objection, form, cause for speculation.
Join.
I believe it is a district goal.
Okay, why do you believe that?
I believe it's consistent with what the mission and vision of the organization is.
Okay. And do you believe Dr. Posley works to comply with state laws?
Objective form foundation called speculation.
Joined.
Can you state the question again?
Sure. This is, again,
Sorry.
always based on your knowledge as the head of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Do you believe that Dr. Posley works to conform the district with state law?
Same objection, also is vague information.
I believe he does work to do that.
Okay. Have you ever known him to violate any state laws based on your experience?
I can't recall any.
Mm. Do you work regularly with the fraud department?
Yes.
Okay, what is the fraud department, if you know?
So the fraud department is actually our internal audit area, and they have responsibility for taking concerns under the fraud, waste, and abuse policy.
Okay. Do you know who Paul Geib is?
Yes, I do.
Who is Paul Geib?
I forget his exact title, but I believe he's the manager of internal audit.
Can we get a spelling on that?
I have Geib.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Okay, so you do work with fraud, and you work with Mr. Geib, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and based on that understanding, do you know if MPS is out of compliance with state law?
Objection, form, vague, cause for speculation, lack of foundation.
Join.
I don't know if there's any I can't recall any specific state statute. I don't recall any.
Okay, do you know what PI 18 is? Or sorry, PI 8.
It sounds like a chapter in some administrative code.
Okay. But you're not aware of which administrative code?
I don't recall.
Okay, the same thing with PI 34. Do you know what that is?
That sounds more familiar, but I don't recall off the top of my head which one that's associated with.
Okay, why does it sound more familiar?
I can't remember if PI 34 was related to administrative code that spoke to, I think, I guess the implementation of a higher education function within our MPSU.
Okay. Has anybody ever brought to you any concerns regarding PI 8 or PI 34?
If those are the ones that I'm thinking that they are, then yes.
Okay. What is your knowledge of those concerns?
That the district was not in compliance with that administrative code.
Why or how?
Wait, hold on, I'm going to object lack of foundation. Also calls for speculation. You can answer.
Can you say the question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Were you aware that there were concerns, or sorry, what was the nature of the concerns that MPS was out of compliance with PI 8 or PI 34?
I could also interject an objection that it misstates part testimony and assumes facts.
I believe the concern was that we were out of compliance with having a certain either level of approval or accreditation, and I forget the exact wording, I'm sorry. But I believe it was in that space that there was some questions as to whether or not we were in compliance.
Have you reported those concerns to the board?
I don't believe I've reported those to the board.
How about the city attorney's office?
I believe so.
Okay. How did you communicate those to the city attorney's office?
In conversation of review of the matter.
Okay. How did you, where did this consultation take place?
Over the phone.
Okay. Let's, do you regularly consult with the city attorney's office?
You can check the form vague.
I would say it's another one of those peaks and valleys. Sometimes with more frequency and sometimes with less frequency.
Okay. Are you able to just call the city attorney's office directly?
Yes.
Okay. And who do you consult with at the city attorney's office?
Presently, I consult with Nick Sinram.
Okay. And before that?
Before that, it was Sheila Tobani.
Okay. And she's also with Beulah Vetter. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. And anybody before Sheila Tobani?
Before Sheila Tobani would have been Calvin Furman.
Okay. Who's also with Beulah Vetter now, right?
I believe so.
So that would be 2 for 2.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if Beulah Vetter's made an offer to Mr. Sinram?
Objection, form, foundation,
All speculation.
I do not.
Okay.
extremely irrelevant.
Now, so you just, if you want to consult with the city attorney's office, you just pick up the phone and call them, is that correct?
I call Nick Syndrome currently.
Okay. And are there any limitations put on your discussion with the city attorney's office?
Form, foundation, vague.
Join.
I'm unaware of any.
Okay. Did you consult with the city attorney's office regarding Dr. Keither's case?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. Did you consult with anybody regarding Dr. Keither's case?
Just the individuals that I spoke to in the conduct of my investigation.
Okay. Why didn't you speak to the city attorney's office regarding Dr. Keither's investigation?
I think in my thinking at the time it was a rather straightforward matter involving policy compliance, internal policy compliance.
Dr. Keither's matter was rather straightforward, is that what you're saying?
Straightforward in as much as that the policy compliance issues did not, in my estimation, required consultation with the city attorney.
Okay. After you met with the board, did you ever discuss Dr. Keither's case with the city attorney's office?
I'm sure I spoke about it.
Okay, what does that mean?
I don't believe in any formal capacity. I think just conversationally.
Can you explain the difference?
I didn't have like a specific ask of the city attorney in terms of guidance or opinion.
Why were you talking to the city attorney's office at that time?
It was probably on some other matter.
Okay, do you know what other matter?
I don't recall the specific matter.
Okay, when would that have happened?
It would have been sometime after that January 21st of 2021 discussion with the board.
Okay. What were the nature of those discussions
With the board?
with the city attorney's office?
I don't recall.
You don't recall what the nature of the conversation with the city attorney's office is?
You can ask and answer.
Can we be clear about the time frame?
Please. So I guess we can start a different way. What conversations with the city attorney's office about Dr. Keither do you recall?
In any period of time?
Sure.
Okay. I recall having a conversation with Jenny Yen regarding the Keither matter.
And when would that have been?
I want to say that was I think it was spring of 2022,
Okay.
early 2020, I believe.
What was the nature of those discussions?
I'm going
Um,
to object to the extent that call for attorney-client privilege.
Same objection.
She was posing questions about my investigation of the Keither matter.
Okay. And what other discussions did you have with the city attorney's office besides with Mr. Juan?
I believe I had a conversation. I believe it was the Keither matter with Kate Headley.
Okay. And when was that?
It would have been near or around that time, maybe subsequent to whenever I'd had the conversation with Miss Yan.
Okay. And what was the nature of that discussion with Ms. Headley?
Objection to the extent it calls for attorney-client privilege communication.
I will join the objection.
I believe it was also she had questions about my investigation of the Keither matter.
Okay. Were there other communications besides those with Headley and Juan?
Object calls for matters which are protected by attorney-client privilege.
I've discussed the Keither matter with Nick Sinram as well
Okay, when would that have been?
over the past several months.
Okay. Was that before or after you got a subpoena in this matter?
Objection, that is foreign, it's vague in terms of time frame.
Can I ask for clarity on whether it would have been the first ever subpoena
Yeah,
or the one
first
for today?
ever subpoena.
Had I ever spoken to Nick Sinram on the Keither matter before I ever received my first subpoena?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall.